Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming today. Here we are with another episode of the Block Insider panel. I've got some amazing people here today to talk about crypto in the real world. So what that means is a lot of crypto usage has been about people trading tokens with each other, okay? These are crypto native and crypto circular use cases. But why are we doing all of this? We're doing this because we're changing the world. We're changing the way systems work, the way businesses work. So we've got some amazing panelists here today. And guys, please introduce yourself.
Sure, Jack, I'll go first then. Hi, everyone. This is Pradeep Goel. I'm the CEO and founder of Solve.care. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for inviting us, Jack and the SKALE team. I'm looking forward to this session. And a quick introduction. Solve.care is a healthcare platform, and our vision is to enable a complete redefinition of patient-doctor relationship using blockchain in a way that restores autonomy to both these parties for a better outcome and better care. So thanks again, Jack, for having us, and I look forward to chatting more.
Hey, everyone. My name is Bill Ottman. I'm co-founder at Minds, Minds.com. We're an open source crypto social network, about 5 million users, and yeah, basically just trying to invert the corrupt centralized social networking model. And yeah, we reward tokens to users for their contributions, and tokens can be exchanged for advertising and can be tipped, and we sort of have all of these incentive and gamified mechanisms to help creators earn. And SKALE's been awesome, helping us figure out how to not deal with all of these crazy gas fees and make the UX easier for mainstream social users.
Hey everybody, I'm Adam, co-founder at Braintrust. Braintrust is a decentralized talent network built on Ethereum, also known as kind of part of the user-owned economy. So our network connects knowledge workers, specifically people with tech backgrounds, developers, designers, product managers, with companies that need their services on a contract basis. So you can almost think of it like a Fiverr or an Upwork, except completely owned and controlled by its community, and for generally much larger projects. And so because we're owned by our users via our native token, we have no incentive to charge ourselves high fees. So it's a very disruptive fee model on Braintrust. We take a 0% rake from our talent and a flat 10% fee to the clients. Excuse me. And we're excited to be bringing lots of new money and GDP into the crypto space. We have big clients like Goldman Sachs, Nike, Nestle, Porsche that are all contracting with tens of thousands of talent around the world on the Braintrust network. And our native token just launched on mainnet a couple weeks ago, and is used primarily for governance, but also for upskilling in our Braintrust Academy and many more things. So we're excited also to partner with SKALE, which does amazing things for helping us sort of move some of the original off-chain stuff, into smart contracts for the marketplace operations, saving on gas, improving UX, stuff like that. So great to be here, guys.
All right, awesome. So, hey, we've got a lot of people here. Please say hi in the chat. Tell us where you're from. I see some familiar names. Good to see everybody again. Another thing, if you have questions, please put them in the questions tab, and we will address those at the end of the call, okay? All right, so let's get into this. This, by the way, is one of the most exciting panels I've been a part of. And the reason why is typically we're talking about the guts of how blockchains work, or these deep inner blockchain use cases where there's like 50,000 people all interacting with each other with huge total value lock. But we're talking about a kind of inner circle of crypto usage. Today we have representation from social media, healthcare, global healthcare, and global talent marketplace. Okay, these combined, these verticals are over $1 trillion in value. Okay, and what we have across all of these verticals are incredibly centralized control. And what that means is, one, less value going back to end users, less value going back to workers, more brittle systems, more brittle networks. And brittle means, they're susceptible to attack. They're susceptible to to censorship control that's negative. There's positive censorship, but there's a lot of negative censorship, and they're susceptible to really a monopolized marketplace dynamic. So we have 3 people here that have an incredible tool that they've leveraged, which is a blockchain and tokenization. And let's talk about that. So let's go around and could you each kind of talk about, like, how does blockchain enable you to do what you do where you couldn't have done this before 5 years ago? And I'm sure we have some really technical people on the call, but we probably have some people who aren't as technical. And I think it'd be interesting for them to understand, like, what is it that blockchain brings to the table?
Adam, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Happy to. So what BrainTrust does is it connects buyers and sellers. It's a marketplace, right? And the buyers in our case are usually big clients like Goldman Sachs or Nike that need work done. And the sellers are talent, generally, knowledge workers. And the traditional Web 2 marketplace model, that's started with eBay and has gone on ever since into the gig economy is, you create this web-enabled marketplace. You have a for-profit company that controls the marketplace, and they need a return, right? Those investors that own that marketplace need a return, and that return comes from high fees, the high rake. And so a marketplace operator's job is to extract as much out of every single transaction as they can through marketplace fees. What that does is it creates diverse incentives between the investors who own and operate the marketplace and the talent, the users who make their living there, right? You see this playing out in the gig economy where, DoorDash generates all this cash, but the restaurants, are negative gross margins, and the Dashers don't make enough money, and Uber, same thing, on and on. So the big idea with BrainTrust is, why not build a marketplace that, instead of being a profit-seeking, centrally controlled corporation that needs to maximize the rake, it's actually a nonprofit completely controlled by the users that make their living on the marketplace, right? So it's a totally different model. There's no central company profit-seeking with BrainTrust. BrainTrust is a global decentralized network, and the rules of BrainTrust, like what fees should we charge or what categories should the network operate in, are all governed by the token holders. It's actually, our governance is just a fork of Compound. So you couldn't, this new model, right, of a no fee or very low fee marketplace, just wasn't possible with, a for-profit corporation. It's a new network model uniquely enabled by the new technology being blockchain.
Yeah, it's actually very similar, between Web 2 marketplaces and Web 2 social networks, where, one example would be all the advertising going through YouTube right now is, totally subject to their subjective whims. And, a lot of creators have struggled with that. But, what we can do is enable direct peer-to-peer tipping and subscriptions between creators. And actually, the Minds token represents the advertising space on the network. So ownership of the token is really ownership of these digital billboards on the network. And so when you stake in, you sort of are put into a rotation of essentially free. We're basically giving our advertising away, because the typical surveillance economy that most of big tech is relying on is completely backwards. And it's just so advertising, surveillance advertising is fine. I mean, it in itself is sort of a neutral thing. Promotion, everyone loves promotion. There's nothing wrong with that. But the way that it's happening right now is just needs to be inverted. So, and yeah, that just wasn't possible with legacy payment networks.
And if I can build on that, what Adam and Bill said, healthcare is very complicated, as we all know. But there is a fundamental fact that we are trying to address. And if I can take Adam's example of the open marketplace, in the US, all the physicians are locked up into networks. They are basically marketplaces of doctors. But those networks are controlled by people like me, the insurance executives, right? Which is what I used to be before I left that world to start SolveCare. And all these narrow networks, I decide what the doctor gets paid, who the doctor can see, which patients the doctor can see and cannot see. And Aetna's created their network, Cigna's got theirs, Humana's got theirs, United's got theirs, Blue Cross, where I was, has their own Blue network. And essentially, we have carved up the entire supply. And then we decide which patient can see which of my suppliers, because doctors are suppliers of care. It has not led to anything for anyone. And all the premise behind this narrow networks was better care, lower costs, easier access, better healthcare. None of that has panned out. What has panned out is I'm in the room as a cop, deciding who grandma can go see and who can't see. And we wrap it up into funny words like pre-authorization and referral management and care management, case management. Come on, guys. The truth is we are deciding who gets to see whom. Worse than that, we decide also how much the doctor gets paid. The doctor doesn't set their own rates. I do. In the chair of, in the board of the Blue Cross, I get to decide how much the doctor's actual visit will cost. You don't know that, but I know how much I'm going to pay him. And it has nothing to do with how much service he's providing you. This is all upside down. And the US is not the only place where this kind of fundamental dichotomy exists. In one way, shape, or form, healthcare has gotten centralized to the point of absurdity in every country. So what you use blockchain for is to re-empower the physician first and foremost. So in our world, similar to Adam's world and Bill's world, we let the doctor set their own rate. Oh, what a simple concept. Really? You get to decide how much your service is worth? Who would have thought that's a good idea? But that's a fundamental starting point. Sarcasm aside, we need to be able to let the doctor set their own rate. We need them to get paid real time. So Solve token is used by the physician to determine what their rate is going to be. And that rate is the same whether the patient is in India or Indonesia or in Indiana. And payment is the same whether you are in any of those places, because you effectively pay across cross-border using the token. Then on the other side, you also need a marketplace for healthcare applications, diabetes management, hypertension, cancer, pregnancy, asthma, dementia, whatever, and hundreds of healthcare applications. Those are also locked up inside EMRs. So today, if you want to do care management, you got to invest in some big, massive electronic medical record from Epic, Cerner, McKesson, Athena. And if they don't do it, you have no option as a physician. You don't get to decide the care you deliver. Your EMR company decides the care to deliver. And we want to break that up too. So we want the doctor to define their own care cards, which is their digital DApp, their decentralized app for healthcare delivery. And that runs on the token. If the doctor wants to publish an app, if the doctor wants that app to interact with the patient, all of that is tokenized. And as we move on to the SKALE network, which we are in the midst of doing, it makes that entire process a lot more efficient and reduces the cost and the overhead. But at the end of the day, the idea is to create open care marketplaces and allow those marketplaces to be governed by the care provider, the doctor, and to be accessed by the care needer, the patient, and paid for by the care receiver to the care provider, with us taking a very small transaction fee. And our token is used as a payment for care services, be it pharmacy, be it radiology, be it inpatient, or be it something more complex like chronic care management, doesn't matter. So essentially, we are building a decentralized healthcare delivery model, which then has to be configurable for each country and for each healthcare relationship. So that makes it pretty complicated. But that's what we have done over the last 4 years, and that's what we have brought to market. And it's exciting to see the reaction from physicians worldwide. It's sort of like oxygen for them to be able to breathe again, to function again, to be able to practice medicine the way they want. And that's where tokenization, blockchain, and there are lots of things you can do with blockchain: consent management, identity management, payment management, care coordination, care measurement, quality measurement. But all that happens because everything is on the immutable ledger in a manner that makes healthcare sense. So combination of the token, the blockchain, and the desperate need of doctors and patients to have autonomy from centralized care governance is why I started SolveCare and why this journey has been so exciting.
That's awesome, Pradeep. And so, guys, I'm going to try to capture everything you said in the fewest words and the simplest words possible. So right now we have very small groups of people that have outsized control over much larger groups of people within the ecosystem they play in. And that's centralization. The reason why a small group has so much incredible control is because they provide the value of organizing the people and the system, okay? And that's why if you have so many people participating, whether it be in a global talent marketplace or social network or healthcare system, you need organization and structure. Blockchains allow automated organization and constant group change and organization around changing rules. So blockchains themselves actually replace this small group of people. They give power back to the users. And I like to call it the democratization of business. We're finally getting to this point where business is becoming democratized. So that's I think a segue into the next question is, right now, I think everyone kind of knows we're at this fever pitch, right? Where crypto is now becoming mainstream. We're actually seeing it in these three use cases. Are there any things that you three are seeing in your particular fields that are those signs that now is the moment? I know, Bill, I know there's probably some really interesting social media stuff you can talk about. Pradeep, I know there's an incident in Ireland recently. Adam, I know that never before have people been so aware of the fact that they could make twice as much money as they made before if they don't go through a centralized choke point. So I'll just leave that open. Please tackle that one.
Let me try to tackle that first because something is really on the top of my head here, if you guys are okay with that. When we launched the latest open care network, a global telehealth exchange, which is a blockchain-oriented open teleconsultation network, doctors can sign up from anywhere. Patients worldwide can find and pay a doctor real time, and they can get care cards or care management tools, which they can buy from the physician using the tokens, and they can be third-party built or they can be physician built. We initially thought that the developers of these cards will be excited about token payments and digital currencies and blockchain, and patients and doctors will probably be a bit more difficult to persuade initially. What we are finding is that 80% of the physicians around the world, be it India, be it UK, be it America, be it Latin America, they're very interested in digital asset-based payments, which is a great surprise to us. And we're very excited about it. Because we figured physicians will be conservative. They will say, you know what, I'd rather get paid in fiat. I don't want to deal with a variable value asset and so on. Overwhelmingly, we are hearing from physicians, you know, I'll take a piece of my transaction or my consultation fee, you know, anywhere between 50 to 80% of the transaction fee, they wanted digital assets. One is fast. Second, they want to hold on to it. Third, they feel that because they're getting paid 90 days sooner than insurance company, they have a lot of holding period now. So long and short of it is physician adoption of digital assets is far beyond our expectations. So that's a good thing. And that's a very good sign of a overall society saying, you know what, the current model doesn't work, neither for the doctor nor for the patient. And the readiness and the willingness of physicians, particularly those who are in their first 10 years or 15 years of practice since graduating, it's very, very high. And that's a great thing. The second thing that we are seeing is, this morning I spoke in India virtually, and the president of the Indian Medical Association, which is a quasi-government entity, was there to speak. And basically he reiterated this point that government of India is bringing forth laws to support the adoption of blockchain in healthcare. And there's a lot of noise about, well, crypto is going to be banned in various countries. India was making a lot of statements to that effect. They have pivoted to, I want to see blockchain come into my country and help deliver healthcare. We heard the same exact thing in Nigeria 2 days ago. We heard the same thing when we were speaking in Argentina last week. Worldwide, there is a recognition that in the government sector, among the regulators, that to improve healthcare, you're going to have to adopt digital assets and blockchain. It's not something that is an enemy. And a year ago, you couldn't convince me that that's going to happen. You could not, because I was from that space. I knew how bureaucratic, slow, and risk-averse it is. But COVID in the last 15 months has absolutely changed the mindset in Washington, in Warsaw, in Moscow, in Kiev, in Delhi. And I talk to governments every day, practically somewhere or the other. And I'm not hearing the pushback we used to hear even 15 months ago. Absolute transformation, both from physicians and from regulators and from government agencies. There is an understanding that healthcare will move to blockchain, tokenization will happen or is happening, and payments will go digital. And that's what we built for, we've been waiting for, and now it seems like the sort of the perfect storm movement. So that's what I see as a why now movement for healthcare on blockchain. I'll turn it over to the other two panelists.
Awesome. Bill, do we still have you here? We got the video.
Oh, you lost me?
Yep. While you fix that, Adam, go for it. And hey, guys, there's an echo. So when you're not talking, let's just mute just because I don't know where it's coming from.
Sure. Yeah. So a couple of things. I mean, Jack, I think, you touched on this important point. The point of blockchain is to eat the middleman, right? Take that extractive middleman that was taking more value than he was providing and replace it with software, right? Very simply. So on BrainTrust, we've done that. We've replaced like a giant corporation that has a bunch of overpaid people soaking up, valuable revenue, and basically replaced it with software that facilitates, buyers and sellers, in our case, clients and talent. And so that enables us to drop the fees to zero on talent. So talent all of a sudden can make 30, 40, 50% more money than if they're on a talent network like Upwork or Fiverr, or working for a staffing agency that marks them up 2 or 3x. That's the first piece. And then you also mentioned, Jack, sort of redistributing control and power over a network, to the folks that actually do the work. And so in our case, what's the number one job of a talent network? Well, you got to grow, right? You've got to grow more talent, more clients, you got to balance supply and demand. If a new big client comes on, Goldman Sachs is posting hundreds of new roles on BrainTrust, we need more talent. And so, the traditional way is pay recruiters, huge fees and waste a ton of money and time doing that. And with BrainTrust, anyone can sign up. You create a connector account, you go to braintrust.com, create a connector account, you get a unique code, and then you can refer your whole talent network using that code. And then when those folks sign up and start transacting on BrainTrust, whether they're client or talent, the protocol actually starts paying you BrainTrust tokens as a reward, variably. So the more that your referring parties transact, the more tokens you earn, right? And those tokens represent control of BrainTrust, right? So the protocol literally gives control of itself to the people who help it in proportion to the amount they help it grow. So it's and there's no people involved in that. It's all code that does that. And so that's how, you come out the other end with a user-owned network, which our mission here is to prove that user-owned networks will grow faster and become more valuable to their users than investor-owned networks.
By the way, Adam, one pushback I've heard from people is, well, if we have all of these machines that are taking all of these coordination jobs away, are we going to lose jobs? Well, but we look at it, there's not even enough people. There's more jobs than people right now in talent marketplaces. So the jobs are there. It's just the jobs are shifting from kind of operational logistic coordination to other more high value functions.
Yeah, that's 100% right. It's in these fields, there is a deficit. So opportunity is not spread evenly around the world, right? We can all agree on that. It's mostly in the US, it's in 2 cities pretty much. But talent, global talent, is spread evenly all over the world. So, with a network like BrainTrust, why should, recruiters or staffing firms in California, build an office in India or Ukraine, fill it with really sharp people and mark it up 2 to 3x, right? They're playing this global arbitrage game and they're making, 90% gross margins on it. BrainTrust exists to erase that, right? Absolutely level the playing field. There might be a tech talent shortage in the Bay Area, but there is not globally. It's hard to measure, right? Because it's such a huge thing. But part of our job here is to preach to clients that hey, you don't need to pay people in California or New York. There's amazing knowledge workers all over the world.
Awesome.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with the user-owned ethos. We absolutely are pushing that as well. We even on the equity side of things, we did an equity crowdfunding round back in 2017. So we have thousands of community shareholders, and then obviously are looking at ways to bring the digital ownership of the ad space, and but sort of distinguishing between the equity and the token, because as we all know, that's sort of landmines everywhere in terms of the legal end of that, which is which luckily we're learning. We're starting to get some conversations happening. Not that they're making much movement, but that being said, I think that everything is moving towards more sovereignty over, we see what's happening with NFTs as this relates to content. People work at home. They want full control over their assets. They want full control over their content, their referrals to different networks, whether it's referring talent, whether it's referring users to the network, big content creators, and being rewarded for that time, because your time is what matters. And, we're living in this new world where there are tools to compensate you for your time. And there's a whole spectrum of tools. There's the gig economy, as Adam was mentioning, and now there's more of the peer-to-peer economy, which is just, quite frankly, better for market participants. So, I think that realistically over time, we're probably going to see gig economy companies just be pulled by the gravity of the peer-to-peer economy, because it's undeniably better. I think that at the end of the day, it's just the UX has to get smoothed out, and that's taking time, because with Web3, we're all in the jungle, and I think it is getting better. But and maybe that is, I'm curious what you guys think about this in terms of the learning curve of Web3 wallets and all of this signing of transactions, and how long you think it's going to take before that gets completely sort of abstracted away so that people don't notice it, or if it's actually something that we think people do need to notice. So like, I have to download my keys. I have to, is it important to not observe that, so that people actually do have to take responsibility for their keys and understand what this new world sort of requires?
I think I love this topic. I think it's incumbent upon the technology builders to make this stuff easy. Like, key management is such a huge thing, right? It's like, you can't expect people to fumble around with QR codes, and if they lose it, or it gets flashed to the wrong camera, somebody could steal all your funds. It's just a dumb system. I think there's firms like Coinbase and Facebook and others that are actually making this easier. Those are two firms that do UX pretty well, I think. But and look, it's come a long way for sure. I mean, 3 or 4 years ago, this whole thing was a fucking disaster. But I think MetaMask has come a long way. I think it's still not a mainstream piece of software. I think EIP 1559 came a long way. You can now reliably broadcast an Ethereum transaction, whereas before, no one knew how to calculate gas, so half of them would just get lost and unposted, and it was a frightening experience. And then now SKALE abstracts away all of that crap, right? So it's come a tremendous way, but we aren't there yet, right? There's gotta be a way for if your 16-year-old loses his keys, you can go on Facebook and have your verified social network put the key back together for you. So, stuff like that, right? It can't be as stark as it is today, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's one of the main areas that we're focusing on at SKALE, is not just building SKALE, but building integrations with wallet providers. And what we're finding, especially with NFTs, there's actually this range of technical acumen and desire for ease and autonomy. And what we're finding is there are a lot of providers that want full custodial wallets, plug and play, behind the scenes, guaranteed recovery for users. Then on the other side, there are people that are more crypto native that are willing to let their users kind of deal with a little more pain for that autonomy. But there's so much advancement taking place on both fronts, and a big piece of this is user experience. And that's, I think in 2017, someone asked me well, why are you guys setting out to build SKALE? And I said, well, because there's a user experience issue. And well, hey, how come you're not talking about SKALE's consensus algorithm and the thresholds encryption? I'm well, all of those things exist to make these things easier to use. Because why we started on this mission wasn't just to help 40,000 people trade tokens with each other every day, which is fun and something I do, but we started down this path to try to help billions of users get more value out of the systems they use, and really to help the builders like Bill, Pradeep, and Adam, who are building absolutely, I think, global brands and game-changing brands in different areas of crypto in the real world, which I think is a good segue into the next question. The next question is, what metrics do you use or do you want to use to gauge your success of your real world advancement? And for your particular businesses, and they're all very different. So I thought it'd be an interesting topic. And I don't know if it's GMV, DAU, revenue run rate, or new doctors, new users. Just curious how you think about metrics.
Jack, this is Pradeep. If I may circle back to the previous question, I want to just add, if I may. No, it's perfectly fine, because healthcare represents a unique additional layer of UX, right? When you are dealing with an elderly patient, you're not only trying to get them to see a doctor and make a payment, you also want them to recognize that they have options to buy digital assets, healthcare assets called care cards, for which they have to make payments in using digital tokens, and they can share them with their family members, and they have to be able to understand that these are secure and personalized assets that they can use to manage their care. When they're connecting their wallet to devices, they need to understand that they control the data, not some central authority who's going to copy the data and aggregate it and sell it to pharmaceutical companies. And then there is this monetization of data, which a patient should be able to do for using their own healthcare, which is very valuable, but we give it away today. Or in fact, we don't even know how valuable the healthcare data is that the patient is just handing over to the EMR company. So anyway, the point of all that is the UX challenge in healthcare is another 3 levels of complexity on top of crypto. So we do focus on that quite a bit. And the Care Wallet application, which is sort of our equivalence of Coinbase Wallet or MetaMask, and as the name implies, this is where we have invested huge amounts of money over the last 3 years to make the Care Wallet grandma friendly or granddaughter friendly. And our avatar there is to say that a granddaughter who is worried about her grandmother's health should be able to coordinate that care, and a grandmother who's paying for her granddaughter's health care should be able to make sure that she can do so quickly, regardless of geographic boundaries. And in today's conversation earlier in India, we had a individual in Dubai, live connect with a physician in India and coordinate a care for his mother who lives in another city in India than the physician, and paid for it from Dubai using Solve tokens. But there is no way that we can expect this triangle of doctor, patient, grandmother, or doctor, grandmother, and grandmother's care sponsor to deal with a lot of the crypto friction. So we have, while there are necessary steps that need to happen to secure the wallet, no doubt, the day-to-day experience is very application and care oriented. So finding that bridge is not easy. As Bill said, it's taking a while. It's taking more than time. It's taking an enormous amount of money, but it is essential. And to me, the holy grail here is when an elderly patient can coordinate their care with their doctor effortlessly and with their family members who are living far from her, and to have this coordinated team sport healthcare happen. And we have inched closer to that over the years, but by only the way we can get there is to simplify the crypto component. The recovery phrases, the token storage, the buying and selling of tokens. So we had to build an entire ecosystem behind in the platform, such as we had to build all the token buying, fiat to token, token to fiat conversion through a switch that we built, which then deals with all the crypto exchanges in the market. But you as a grandmother do not need to open a Binance account or a Bittrex account or a KuCoin account where Solve token is available. You simply download the Care Wallet, you set it up. Then we do all that hard work for you. So that's been critical. And that's why we believe the tipping point in all industries, particularly healthcare, will only be achieved when we can abstract the crypto functionality in the context of a human user experience. So that's one thing I wanted to say. I don't think that we are there yet, but we are getting closer to where it needs to be.
Yeah, one of the first times you and I talked, we talked about, well, hey, isn't there a lot of, I think I said to you, isn't there a lot of friction already? And there's just all this complexity. And you're like, yeah, it's like, let's look at the topic. Like, where else do you actually need to have a physical card that a company sends to you that you have to bring the card to the business in order to get service? Like,
Yeah.
and I mean, everyone's been to a doctor or a dentist, and you're like, well, here's my physical card I always keep in my wallet, right? And so why isn't that card and the credentials living on a chain that can authenticate in for service? And then it automates all the payment, the processing, and that's one of the biggest values, I think, of SolveCare is just automating. I mean, there's all these like higher macro values that you bring, but just automating that system itself is so valuable. Like anytime you're bringing a physical card around, that's thing's got a target on its back for a user experience process that will die.
I mean, Web 2 went through this as well. Like, when social media and, different e-commerce sites particularly social media, like you remember the days when like your parents couldn't figure out Facebook.
Yeah.
And like that existed. It's not really a thing anymore, but it really took Web 2 like a decade at least probably to smooth things out. So the same is going to be the case in Web 3. And to just, oh, by the way, Adam tried to sign up as an employer on BrainTrust. Got to get that hookup. Employer registration, not taking new employees. Employer. I'm just messing with you. But yeah, so in terms of metrics though, Jack, one that we're really focused on is views, impressions, because that's something that's really visceral to everyone. I mean, it's something that makes sense. It's not overly complicated. Everyone's trying to expand their social reach, and so our token represents 1,000 views. So one token is pegged to 1,000 views. You can use it to boost your content. And so, as we grow, we're trying to maximize the amount of impressions. Honestly, that we're giving away to the community. We're giving away millions of views every month, and also that people are using to boost their content with. So that's something like bringing in more mainstream metrics like views and engagements and subscribers and connecting that with the token, I think has been a really effective way that we've been able to get people interested.
Yeah, from our perspective, just to add to similar thought process as Bill, we are focused on physician-authored applications as a key metric. It's a very, it's something that people don't believe is possible or can be ever achieved, where the notion is that my physician, while he's consulting with me or looking at my medical records or post-consultation, thinking about how to take better care of me, can actually generate a DApp for me specifically that addresses my specific health needs, can send that DApp to me, and which allows me to do everything I need to do, and for the physician to know whether I'm doing it or not, as well as pay the physician for that app. So for example, if I'm consulting with Jack and he's a pediatric oncologist and he develops a protocol of care right there saying, okay, I want you to do the following things to reduce the risk of, God forbid, cancer in your kid, because you're a pediatric oncologist. I want a personalized care protocol from you that addresses my kid's health. And I want that protocol to be on the blockchain so I can have other physicians understand what you're telling me to do, and they can coordinate their decisions and medications, prescriptions with me, and I will willingly pay for that. I'll give you 1,000 Solve tokens for that personalized care protocol, and you could be a German oncologist, and I'm not even in Germany. But the fact that you can actually generate a digital app that is patient-specific, put a tokenized price on it, send it to me, and have it be broadcasting certain events from that app to other care team, my primary care physician, my pediatrician, that's magic. The reason you can never achieve that before is because you would have to involve a bunch of programmers, and you would have to hire a CIO and build a data center to build any kind of a care app. It would be impossible. I built dozens of care apps. My budget used to be $2 million to $200 million to launch a care model. I have launched care coordination solutions which cost infinite number of zeros, $2 billion, $3 billion, and we got no usage out of it because doctors said, hey, you CIO, you built it. I don't really want to use it. It's not relevant to me. So we are trying to bring that capability to the physician. So For us, the key metric is physician-authored apps. Because we have built so far over the last 4 years, hundreds of care apps for the physician. Diabetes care, pregnancy care, even transportation management, whatever, prescription management, COVID care, whatever. Hundreds of them. But we had to build them, which means that the physician had to come to us and give us a requirements document. And 2-3 days later, we came up with a care card and they said, yeah, this works. And we launched it. Now the goal is to let the physician author it themselves. And what we are finding as we train physicians to do that, it's a completely liberating experience for them. It's completely magical because they are basically authoring their own revenue stream in Solve tokens. They are authoring a care model that the patient can follow, and they're essentially selling that care model to the patient in real time. So those kind of things are really the metrics that we think will transform not just healthcare, but make blockchain mainstream. Because as you said at the beginning of the call, Jack, crypto transactions tend to be in this bubble where we all transact with each other. We swap yields and we stake tokens and we swap tokens and we mine them and we do all this stuff. But the average parent or patient or physician isn't in our world yet. So I'm trying to pull them in. And the more physicians I talk to, the more excited they get that they don't have to learn the blockchain to build an app on the blockchain. They don't have to issue a token to actually get paid in tokens. They don't have to open an exchange account to actually convert that token to fiat. That's the onboarding. That's the tipping point. And then the other thing that I'll say, and I'll then turn it over to Adam and Bill, sorry for the long answer. We implemented a physician enrollment model where third parties can go refer a physician to the blockchain and give them a code very similar to what Adam mentioned. And when the physician uses the code to join our chain, then all the work that physician does, all the revenue that physician produces over the course of a year, 3 years, 5 years, which can be millions of dollars, the referring agent gets a certain percentage of that revenue, and the physician knows that. So this allows us to organically grow the physician network. We launched in 21 countries on our own, but now we have expanded the referral network into 21 more countries in Latin America. And it's growing faster than anything else we could do because there is a token revenue for every referring agent. So guess what? People are actually doing this full time. They're going doctor to doctor to doctor in their city and saying, you need to sign up for SolveCare's platform, use my code, and you're going to get this global access to patients, and I'm going to get a piece of your revenue, which doesn't come out of your pocket anyway. So this is it's about removing the middleman, as Adam said. Blockchain has always been about removing the middleman. I was the ultimate middleman before SolveCare, and I'm basically disintermediating myself.
We need more of you.
Awesome. Adam, talk a little bit about metrics, and then, I'd love to just hear how you guys think about it.
Yeah, I mean, so metrics are interesting in blockchain, right? Because with Bitcoin, there's a lot of talk about like stock to flow or number of transactions, blah, blah, blah. I don't think anyone's really figured it out with respect to valuation. With DeFi, it seems to be, total value locked is an interesting KPI. Again, though, like DeFi is a bit, I think, Jack, you mentioned earlier, like DeFi is a bit self-referential, right? A lot of the tokens on there are other DeFi tokens or, tokens that are used to bootstrap liquidity in networks or whatever. With BrainTrust, the goal here is to, connect, clients that need services with talent that provide services. And so GSV, gross service value, that run through the network, actual transactions through the network, is our most interesting metric, as well as just the general size of the network. How many invoices have been processed? How many active participants are there? We're actually just about to publish a public dashboard at BrainTrust that will show all this information in real time. It's in QA at the moment.
Awesome. And Adam, one of the cool things I think you guys have done is you've gotten so many globally known brands and Fortune 500 companies on the platform and actually using a blockchain and a cryptocurrency in a very normal business function, which a lot of people thought just wouldn't happen. And you've been able to get these global known brands.
We kind of joke like we have some of the biggest brands in the world using blockchain and they don't even know it. because the marketplace software has abstracted away a lot of, it doesn't, we don't require clients we actually don't require anyone to use the token. Lots of people want to use the token because they care about governance of the network, or they want to take academy courses and upskill, that kind of thing. But if Goldman doesn't want to use it, doesn't want to actively participate in governance, they don't have to. But we have other clients that actually are excited about that.
Mm-hmm. And that's the interesting thing about tokens, is that there's these different layers of value in a blockchain. One, there's people accessing the value at the top. At the surface, these are these businesses and talent, and they're being connected together. But then what you have is you also have this referral mechanism, and Pradeep also talked to this, where the network actually goes viral and it produces these network effects that are catalyzed by the token. And so, I have 10 friends who are engineers. I'm going to get all of them on Brain Trust because they're all looking for jobs. Well, hey, guess what? I'm actually getting on an automated referral system because the system's actually, that's part of the code, right? And so you can code in these mechanisms where, again, what you're doing is just organizing humans with software that is community run and community owned. So there's people who can participate and do all their own custody of their wallets and go trade the assets on a DEX. There's other people who are just going to take the value of having a democratized business. So
right,
it's pretty cool.
And that's a much larger community, Jack. Much bigger community is the one which actually is not looking at this as a hobby, but rather how do you add value to my life? And if you add value to my life, I'll use it, and I won't have any concerns with it. But if you, but I don't necessarily have crypto as a primary hobby or as a focus. So I mean, the vast majority of the humanity out there isn't a crypto enthusiastic community. They are aware of it more by and large, but they don't know what to do with it, and they don't know how to benefit from it. So we do have to bring it to a human usable, be it in the form of social media where you can trust it to not be centrally censored, be it in the form of a universe decentralized talent pool that I can go to knowing that nobody's taking an undue cut in the middle, or I don't have to pay 30% recruiting fees, or be it in the form of a decentralized healthcare where I know that every cent I pay is going to the doctor, and I'm not having somebody else dictate the quality or the cost of the physician that I'm paying for.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Pradeep. So, Bill, I've got a burning question for you here. Give us the state of social media. I think all of us live in and around social media as users, but you're actually seeing it from the inside out and seeing, what's happening. What is the macro right now?
I think it's going through an existential crisis, and that is why, to their credit, I think, we're seeing Twitter and Facebook sort of start to look at crypto. And, Dorsey is Mr. Bitcoin. Granted, Twitter doesn't really encapsulate any values of crypto other than, enabling Lightning. Okay, cool. Like, good job. Welcome to the party. Like, let's keep it going and actually embed these values, like, as deeply into the network as possible. So I am hopeful that they keep walking the walk, because I don't want to polarize the situation where it's sort of like us versus them. I mean, they're not going to go away in the same way that like MySpace and Friendster went away. Google, Facebook are too embedded in the infrastructure of the planet, like in a way that is so far beyond what MySpace was. I mean, in just the APIs are like laced into hundreds of thousands of apps. Like it's insane. So I'm definitely more pro transformation, but the elephant in the room is really the open source conversation, because it's one thing to, and I'm not going to get into like judgmental mode, but like in my personal opinion, like it's not fully abiding by the values of crypto and freedom unless the code is at least auditable. It doesn't even have to be like fully open source. There's all sorts of like novel licenses that companies are using to protect themselves now. If you look at what Uniswap did with their time delayed GPL, super interesting. I mean, it's sort of a way to they understand that there is no world in which Uniswap is not open source, because people would not use it, because you need to be able to audit it. So to do a time delay thing where no one can fork it for like a number of years, like that's real innovation. That's really interesting. So I'm really hopeful that, I think that the cultural momentum is ultimately going to force these companies to change in this direction, just sort of as we've been seeing with end-to-end encryption and messaging, not just crypto in terms of cryptocurrency. So I just think that, the industry is doing a great job, and we just got to keep trucking. It's going to take another decade to really have things feel more obvious, but we're getting there.
Yeah, and hey, one thing I want to call out, I actually see a lot of comments and people talking about SKALE and DeFi, and I want to, SKALE looks at the world as DeFi is roughly a third of the market share that we have in terms of partners and businesses that are launching in the next 2 to 3 months, actually 1 to 3 months. There's this whole NFT category that's all of a sudden become a third of this world, and then there's this other component around Web3, and gaming kind of overlaps. But one interesting thing is, right, DeFi is actually going to be a component that dramatically powers the other areas, okay? And so DeFi is incredibly important to SKALE, and DeFi will live on SKALE, because for people to use SKALE chains, DeFi becomes the liquidity provision and the fluid that helps assets move around in these worlds, right? If I need to swap ETH for Solve tokens, if I need, and the way Minds actually is integrated with DeFi as part of the advertising platform. So you're going to see DeFi live actually in Web3, and DeFi's breakout moment, in my opinion, is going to be when Web3 and we have billions and hundreds of millions of users using applications that are integrated on the back end to DeFi. DeFi becomes almost like a motor inside of a car engine. And the car engine is Web3, decentralized marketplaces, decentralized healthcare, user-owned economies, et cetera. And DeFi and blockchains and all these it's all the componentry that helps the vehicle run. So I wanted to address that, saw that question. And so, hey, panelists here, we've got 5 minutes left. I have another question about 2022. It has been a huge year, and Pradeep, you referenced COVID. I think COVID's impacted every business in the sense that it's made people, aside from not talking about the negative implications, which there are many, and we all have a lot of sympathy and empathy. But in terms of how it's sped forward technology adoption and change, that's interesting, right? And so, when you look at your businesses, what do you see or not your businesses, the efforts you support with your projects? What do you see happening in 2022, and how does this digital transformation play a role in it?
Well, in case of healthcare, I'll give you a very interesting stat. In 2019, there was a study done in the US and Canada, I believe, and I think some participants from UK, doctors. And the question was asked, three questions were asked. How many of you believe you have the technology at home or in your office to do teleconsultations? How many of you are interested in practicing medicine online? And how many of you believe that teleconsultation is a clinically effective tool? And on average, the answer was about 8% had a yes answer to the three of them. Less than 8 out of 100 doctors said, I have the tools to do teleconsultation. I think it's effective, and it's going to be the future. They did the similar survey, not exactly the same, but very similar survey, midsummer 2021, and the number of physicians who are aware of how to do teleconsultation and do it regularly is 81%. And 90%, even those who don't practice telemedicine, 89% almost said, I expect telemedicine to be the future. Now, I'm not saying that because you're a healthcare platform, this means a lot. It means a lot to us specifically, because it means that digital health is here, and it's here in a big way. But the transformation from 8% to 80% in a single year means we compressed 20 years of adoption journey into 1 year. That's what COVID did. Now, what does 2022 do for healthcare in particular, digital health and adoption of blockchain and digital assets in health? Is the corona is not going to go away. It's going to come in waves, and it's going to have a very uneven impact on various economies. We already see it. Some countries are opening, others are shutting down at the same time. So, Sweden is celebrating back to normalcy, and US is talking about, another wave of Delta that might bring us back to all kinds of restrictions. So this is going to have a very uneven impact on healthcare, on economic models, on payment models. But what people are doing is recognizing that they can shop from home. That's what we did in the last 15, 18 months. We shopped from home for everything. Hardly anybody went out for anything. So healthcare has reached the tipping point to say, okay, shopping for healthcare from home is okay. Paying for healthcare online is okay. But it's just a beginning. So we expect 2022 where the healthcare adoption of digital assets as a payment mechanism, adoption of digital assets in healthcare as an incentive mechanism for doctors and for independent developers, and as an acceptable tool of payment cross-border and even within the state, that's going to go mainstream. What will not happen in 2022 from a healthcare point of view is a regulatory oversight. It won't just disappear, nor should it. So where the big opportunity lies in 2022 is let the digital penetration happen, but focus on the governance of healthcare. And if you do that next year, the companies that do governance well next year will end up owning a vast swath of $8 trillion a year market, because healthcare alone is +8 trillion a year. So that's where we think that the puck is going. It's okay if you can do a digital consult on FaceTime or Zoom or on SolveCare platform. It's who pays whom, who is consulting with whom, what the parameters of care are, what the quality of outcome is, whether you're compliant with the law, whether consents were in place. All those things will determine a significant shift towards sustainable digital health. So that's, I think, the future from my perspective in the space that I live in.
Thank you. Okay, great, Pradeep. Bill, Adam, quick thoughts. We're running here short on time, but love to hear quick 2022 thoughts.
Go for it, Adam.
Yeah, well, I think COVID forced us all to forced the world to realize that working from home or remote is better than dragging yourself into an office. And so I think that is a trend that will not go back, and that the world will actually reconfigure around remote for 2022.
Yeah, completely agree. And I mean, there's a lot of overlap actually in terms of brain trust and minds, in terms of just empowering individuals with what they're doing for a living. On Minds, we're more focused towards content creators. But and by the way, Adam, thanks for the waitlist escalation on that's it looks like a really cool product. I actually hadn't dived in. It's amazing. So congrats to you. And yeah, Jack, thanks for having me on. Guys, I'm really excited to follow up. I think it's going to be just a momentous year, and next year is going to be insane. I mean, look at how fast things are going. It's wild. Yeah,
it's everyone here is, we're on the right side of the history narrative. The momentum is here. For me, it was just an honor to have these three panelists here today. They are absolutely transforming their respective industries, and everyone listening, please go check them out. Notes will be posted in the show notes as far as where to join their communities. If you're here watching live, please look at the chat. But everybody here, always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Everybody have a great day or night. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye.